Marlins have had. I think Jose was the most exciting pitcher the Marlins had. He didn't have a stretch like this. And this could just be a stretch, right? But this is dominant, what he's been doing.
But is it a stretch, David, when it's the first half of the season? And now if he gives up a run before the eighth inning, I'm surprised. I'm like, how'd they get the run?
Well, he's done 11 starts, I think, now, where he's gone 7 innings or more. Yeah, Billy, are you saying it's the best stretch? Or you're saying he's the best pitcher who ever was a Marlin?
So right now, this is the best stretch, I think, that they've had, right?
I agree.
He'd have to keep it up to be the best pitcher, but it's been half a season now. And obviously, you'd have to do it more than just this season. But it's not a fluke thing. It's not like he's been bad and this is just like, whoa, he found something.
I know I sound like an idiot mentioning this for the 4th time, but standing behind home plate the other day, watching him throw to Yastrzemski, I was like, how does a human being hit this? Because he's throwing 100 and it's not just 100, David. It's 100 with movement. Like he's got 20 inches of run on the ball.
You just saw that on Twitter, didn't you?
Yes.
You watched one of the videos which said 20 inches of run.
Because
you have no idea what that means, do you?
No, I do know what it means. David, the people are missing by so much. Okay, these are professional hitters, and I know a lot of people are missing in baseball, but they're missing by so much because this man is throwing a baseball differently than it's been. You know, this is Bob Gibson. This doesn't mean that this is what he's going to be, but for half a season, this is as good as a pitcher can be.
Well, I think hitters will tell you that they only hit mistakes anyway. So if pitchers don't make mistakes, and if you get one mistake per at-bat, right, it's the old one pitch per at-bat that you get to hit, and if you miss it, then you're a minor league player, and if you don't miss it, you're Barry Bonds. I think what you're seeing, though, out of Sandy is he's got size, he's got velocity, but I just want to correct you. Just because you're throwing 100 in the 8th, that doesn't mean that you go out for the 9th. Because Don Mattingly has a responsibility to the team and to his career, and you cannot continue to pitch 117-plus pitches. In the old days you could, but today you cannot. And he's got too many years left in front of him, and you've got to have a bullpen able to get and save a 2-0 game. You just have to.
In Don Mattingly's defense, which is not something I do often, it was also a very long bottom of the 8th inning. Like, it lasted a while, and he was
Did the Angels do that on purpose? Was that strategy to slow down the rhythms of this dude who was mowing them down? I legitimately thought that's what was happening.
Yeah, we talk about that, actually. You talk about what you can do to get people out of their rhythm. You talk about stepping out of the box more, which is a rule violation, but it leads to longer games. But when you see pitchers are hot, we tell our hitters, do something, right? Swing when you said you normally wouldn't swing. Step out, put your batting gloves on and off. But that's not why Mattingly took him out of the game. I think that was predetermined, given that he had gone long in his last start. And this is a stretch, Billy, where there have been signs of this from Sandy. But what he's doing now is what they always hoped he would do. But it is only a half of a season. And you want him good for 5 years before he signs his next contract after 27, either with the Marlins or someone else.
Yeah, they got him cheap. That's one of the things, Billy. They did the rare thing that they did with Yelich and that the Rays have been doing forever. They locked him up because they knew if he doesn't get injured, he's going to be valued for 5 years at the top of a rotation.
But, David, the thing that I would ask you is that you're saying that you have to take him out because you have to preserve him for the longer term. They're already using him as though they're not really particularly interested in his longer term. I know that sounds callous to say, but he's thrown 19 more innings than any other starter in Major League Baseball. Part of that is his effectiveness, but I already see him going 7-8 innings, and I'm thinking to myself, he's being used unlike any other pitcher in Major League Baseball right now.
Whitty, it's colder than that. Samson has told us that in the back and forth over Jose Fernandez, when they didn't know if they were going to be able to keep him, and they wouldn't have been if he wanted $200-something million, that the coldness of it, David, is okay, we'll spend your arm right now. We'll just keep sending you out there.
We will pitch you until your arm falls off. We said that about so many pitchers. We said that about A.J. Burnett. Anybody we were going to let go in free agency, we're just going to keep going. A young pitcher who was overperforming, who was not scouted or developed by us to be a star. When we brought him up, we would not protect their arm. Those who we did not have investments in, we would not protect their arm because that wasn't our interest. Our interest was only short term. When you've got a pitcher like Sandy signed long term, that's exactly the arm you do protect.
Help me. I asked the entire room this because I thought that Sandy's last game before this one was the most exciting game of the Marlins season. He was going into the 9th inning. They were a pitch away or an out away from losing. Garcia finally hits the ball far because he doesn't hit for power. Center field, home run. Sandy, does he get to close this game? And in our discussions, because there have been like 4 of these now, the game that he won where he told Mattingly to get away from him, the ball was getting scorched in the 9th inning, and the double play they got, he was just lucky they hit it right at the second baseman, who made a nice play. Otherwise, the most exciting game of their season, we're yelling, well, they were hitting him pretty hard after 100 pitches, David.
Yeah, there's a reason why that is the limit. When you think about this type of velocity, it's very hard to throw that hard for that long, and there are very few pitchers who can do it. But the reason why he's pitched 19 more innings than anyone else, there's an article that just came out today, and it's something that has been talked about for half a decade. Starting pitching is disappearing because people view that it's ineffective and it's not really a smart way analytically to have the same pitcher face the same lineup more than twice. And there's numbers to back that up. I don't agree with that. I want my starting pitcher to go 7 or 8 innings. That used to be what you expected out of your starter. When you had a 5 and dive starting pitcher, you viewed him as crap, right? That's a 5th starter where you want 5 from. And then toward the end of my career, those guys started getting $10 million, and it just blew my mind. It made no sense to me. It's like the crappy NBA players getting $15 million. But what Sandy's doing is what starting pitchers are supposed to do. It just looks so strange compared to what starting pitchers do today.
Are you ready to do top 5? We like throwing these at Samson. He goes through his files. He's very meticulous about where it is that he has his library of cataloged Marlins information. Are you ready to do top 5 Marlins number 5s ever? Number 5s ever. Are you ready to do it? Yes, Samson, do you have the history here? Can you look through your files and immediately find Tom Kohler somewhere in there?
Tom Kohler was not a 5 for us, but he'd be a 5 on a championship team, but not a 5 for us. He was the minor league pitcher, by the way, and I'm not delaying here because I'd have to think of the names anyway, but he was a guy who won at every level, and now wins have disappeared from the calculus of what matters to pitching, but he won at every level in the minor leagues, and we brought him up because he was a winner, and that's what he ends up being, actually. Tom Kohler is a winner. The great number 5 starter was a little lefty named Michael Tejera.
Hold on. We got to go from the bottom. What do you don't know how the top 5 list works? You can't give us the best of all of them. Everything after that.
No, he's number 5.
Oh, okay. Number 5.
Michael Tejera.
Oh, my God.
Look at the smile on Billy's face. Nothing.
I was always worried about the mole that he had. I was like, oh, God, I hope that's nothing.
You spent what age were you when you worried about the face of your number 5
I
starter?
was in high school, but at the time I was going to dermatologist. I'm like, man, I hope that's okay. I hope we get that looked at. And he was also like an everyman, right? Because he wasn't very big, but he was decent. He was good. It was like, hey, you know what? Anyone can make the majors.
Well, yes, I felt like, wait a minute, that guy's from Flagami. No, like, isn't that how you felt about him?
It feels like I could just see him kind of walking the street of Miami.
He's got a World Series ring, by the way.
Champion.
But he was one of those 4A pitchers. 4A is what we talk about with the guy who's too good to be in AAA and not good enough to be in the major leagues, but you use him when you have to use him as depth because you need 13 or 14 starting pitchers during the course of your life. He was a 4A guy. But very serviceable. That's the other word. Isn't it so terrible the way we label human beings? He's a serviceable 4A guy.
Yes. What you're saying, serviceable 4A guy is a special kind of purgatory between you are on the cutting edge of where we do business professionally. And so you're almost good enough to be a professional, but if you're too expensive, we don't want you. And if you're cheap, you could play up here, or you could just go play down there. We'll get more where you came from. We're mining the AAAs and AA for all of our talent.
Are we considering him the 5th starter in 2003, or are you thinking beyond? Because in 2003, I thought Mark Redmond was the 5th starter, who should be on your list.
That's
Spoiler
a good one.
alert.
He was not brought in to be a 5th starter. So I actually, when you asked me this top 5, I'm thinking of pitchers who may not have pitched in the 5 hole, but were 5th starters. Like, I can't tell you. During the course of a season, everybody's a 5th starter.
He may have been a Marlins ace at one point, but this is a 5th starter.
That's how I'm doing it. That's why my number 4 guy was an opening day pitcher in the most embarrassing day of my career, in a career that had so many embarrassing moments. The most embarrassing moment of my tenure was when Mark Hendrickson was our opening day pitcher. I
You
hope
started
all
on the
don't
road
remember
that year, right? That was we started on the road situation.
No, that was. We're giving you the best we got.
That's what you wait.
that's
So,
it.
Samson, you looked at the mound that day on opening day, a day of hope, and you said, I have failed as a franchise, that this is the
Yes.
guy I'm throwing out there.
I actually didn't say I
Oh,
wanted to
God.
hide behind the franchise. I took it personally, that it was a personal failure. I looked, because what you do when a season starts, you look at all the matchups and you look at, so there's 30 opening day starters, and we ranked them every year, and we never finished 30. We always had good pitching during the course of the 16 years. But Mark Hendrickson was ranked 30th that year we did an honest ranking of it, and we made a commitment that would never happen again. By the way, very nice guy. And I believe, was he an NBA player?
I don't believe so.
I think he was a basketball player, because if I remember correctly, he was very tall.
Very tall.
Well, he was was he 6'8" or 6'10"?
No, taller, 6'10".
And you were embarrassed by his lanky slingshot motion being your opening day starter. Was he 6'10", Whittingham?
Well, no, I can confirm that he was a professional basketball player. He played 29 games for the Philadelphia 76ers in the 1996-1997 season.
Okay.
Can't believe that was in my head.
I
really have problems.
Yes, way to go. That day haunts you still.
Yes,
we will get to number 3, but I think Billy nailed it already. I think Billy has usurped this list. Go ahead with number 3.
Wait, Billy's doing number 3?
No,
or I'm doing
you,
number 3?
because he said Mark Redmond, and I'm like, that's perfect. He's just roly-poly. You roll him out there, and it's like he's just going to...
He was good. Like in 2003, I was
Yeah.
confident when he would take the mound.
Do you know that he was a number 5 starter, but you can't even be a number 5 starter when you pitch in the World Series. He started Game 7 against the Cubs. That's not a number 5 starter by definition.
But he was a 5th starter on that team when you have Penny and Dontrell and Josh Beckett. Like he was the 5th best pitcher at the time, but he wasn't a number 5.
Yeah, he had come off. I think we got him in a trade from Detroit, as I recall. And he was brought in to bolster the rotation. We didn't have Dontrell to start the 03 season.
But
so
Billy,
he started off at the top of that rotation.
Do you realize what you're doing, Billy? You're doing one of your arguments. It's one of your circular arguments. He wasn't a number 5. He's a number 5. Like you're telling me.
Well, he wasn't a number 5, but he was 5th. Like the Dodgers have a great pitching staff. Their 5th starter's not a number 5.
So define 5 for me, because you're saying the 5 for the best team is a different.
What is the game that we're playing? I don't understand.
You're changing the game.
Well, you said which is the 5th best Marlins start, or the Marlins best number 5.
That's
but
right.
I'm just doing it based per season.
But you're saying you said Redmond, and I thought you closed down the game. I thought you came up with the best one. When you I think a 5th starter. That's where I was starting, because that was the most famous one in Marlins history. He's the one who mattered the most.
Yeah, but he was probably like a 3 or 4 at his best.
That's what he was, Billy.
For me, the conceit of the game was David Samson saying 5 and dive. And so I was thinking the best 5 and dive pitchers, or like names that most connote 5 and dive.
Okay. I'm actually, the way I'm playing it is guys who shouldn't have been good enough to pitch in the big leagues, but we had them pitching in the big leagues, and we had them in circumstances where they were not actual number 5s, but we counted on them to be number 2s.
Forgive me, okay, because I feel like we're playing 3 different games.
Seems like we're caught in semantics over a simple top 5 list.
Let's agree on the game we're playing.
Whittingham, you're doing a different list. You're saying guys who are going out there and they're throwing 5 innings for you, and you're happy and get that off the field.
You're happy if it's 3 earned.
Which is basically what's happening in baseball. Which
it's every pitcher then.
Now it is. Yes, now it is. But it used to be 5 and dive, which is back in our day, a guy like Louis Aquino. Louis, can I just get 5 innings out of you?
Is there any way that you can get us into the 6th inning?
If you can get me into the 6th, just allowing 3 runs, Louis, don't be an asshole.
God damn it. 6 innings, please.
God damn it. Why is there first and second in the first inning every goddamn time?
Louis, get me to 5 1/3. Can you get me to 5 in the fucking third?
Can you only walk 4 people today, please?
Leave a man straight in a second. Come on.
I know you're out there scared. You got nothing but 87-mile-an-hour croutons. Get to 1 out in the 5th with a man on first and get the fuck off the field.
Is Jamie Moyer a number 5?
No, he's vastly overqualified to be a number 5 for me.
Just because he's shoving up the
crafty.
Marlins took us, right? But
I mean,
if you
pitching
look
to
at
is
him,
45.
well, wait a minute. Longevity makes you a number 3?
For me, you enter a different class once you start
What is
pitching
the
until you're
game that we're
45.
playing? Can we decide, please?
I would like to play the game with a list that I put together by just researching in the last few minutes. Number 5, Brad Hand.
No, he then became an all-star.
I know, but for the Marlins, he was
not a five.
he was a 5 and dive. He was a 5 and dive.
He
while
was. I didn't trust him. He was going to walk
course you
8 in
didn't.
5 innings. He was going to
we
walk
had a
8
million
guys.
of those guys, like Logan Kensing, Graham Taylor. I can name a million pitchers who you could say we pitched as a 5 because we forced them to start because we didn't have enough depth. So, or we ruined by starting them tour like Brad Hand's career. We basically ruined.
When Hendrickson is starting for you, David, how many of those players in big league uniforms are actually big leaguers?
On that team, half.
You knew going into the season, half of our team, this is not a professional. We've got half a baseball team.
Mark Hendrickson was the opening day starter. I mean, that's the end. That's the end of the story.
What year was
That's
this?
it. I don't know.
All right, I'll look it up. You're trying to block it out from your memory.
Oh, for sure.
Number 4 for me, Sean West.
Oh, that's a good one. I wanted so much more from him.
Sean West, people don't remember. He's playing. We talked about this during COVID. He is playing in a church band now. A 6'10" lefty who should have been Randy Johnson. He could throw 98 when people weren't throwing 98 from the left side, like Andrew Miller did, actually. And he had a 4-cent head. Sean West is in my top 5 with A.J. Burnett and a few others of just the most brainless people of all time. Now, A.J. Burnett's become a family man, a good father, a good guy. Sean West just disappeared. He quit. And by the way, my number 3 in this list is a guy we got, I believe, the same draft, who was supposed to change the Marlins with this great draft, a guy named Chris Volstad, who's a name you may not remember.
Yes, no.
I mean, of course. That's number 3 on my list.
Remember
Good.
I will never forget Chris
Good
Volstad.
fathers and family men can also be dumb, right? It doesn't have to be like one or the other.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Wait, are you saying, of course, you remember him because you remember him negatively, or you
No,
remember
I
the
remember you
promise?
guys tried to sell him on us for 5 years.
Oh, I thought he was going to be great.
when
Volstad.
he'd go
He had
out
a game
there.
in L.A., Dan, let me
His
tell you.
12-6 curve in MLB The Show was unbelievable.
You guys kept
Yeah.
telling me this was going to be the future of your team. He was your face. But what do you mean, how am I going to forget that? You sold me that bullshit for like 4 years.
Because we believed it. We said there's no way, right? It can't be that this is not working. We're not going to allow ourselves to have drafted, and I don't remember a lot, Jacob Marceau, Aaron Thompson, Chris Volstad. We had all these. We had 5 picks in the first round plus the compensation round, and we whiffed.
Adam Conley
crushed
was
us.
another one I thought was going to be great and just didn't.
Who were
He
the
had a little bit of a run.
Yeah.
Adam Conley was one. It was the he was the leader of the team in 16 when Jose died. He was the one who spoke the most, which was weird. He was crying hysterically. He's a very religious guy, and he was like speaking to God. He was having a very godlike experience in the clubhouse the day Jose died. I will never forget that as long as I live.
You say it as if it's a weird experience. Like what? Like you are that he was feeling something spiritually connected,
Yes.
and you didn't understand what you were watching, and it looked weird to you.
Yes, because I was thinking all I could think of was logistics at that moment. And I'm watching this sort of reaction to a death where I couldn't react that way. I couldn't be emotional about it because we had to plan all this stuff. And he was just wailing and talking and yelling. It looked like Joel Osteen to me. That was in my head.
But I actually have never had a more spiritual moment in my life. This might sound lame. Than the day, the first game after Jose died and watching D. Gordon hit that home run. It's the first time, like, I'm not a very religious person. I felt religious in that moment. And I know if that's, like, because of our relationship with death, we're all terrified of death. But standing there is like, D. Gordon never hits home runs. And he hits a home run now. Like I couldn't believe for 2 full innings. Like in some ways, I could have left after that happened because that was the moment in some ways that we were there to see.
Can you be there to see a moment that you can't even contemplate could happen?
No.
I thought like to be there for a moment, it's like a moment that you're planning to see.
You go there for a moment. Like the moment is like, when is this going to hit me? The sadness of it all, or the kind of
Surrealness.
Yeah,
is what I would say.
Surrealness. That's exactly the word, and that's when it hit me. Because you guys did an incredibly beautiful memorial outside that was really touching to walk by. And then
Jeter tore it down.
No.
Tore it down. Can you imagine that without telling the family, without telling us?
Yeah.
We're talking about where everyone went, players went, fans went. There was a huge part on the West Plaza where people signed, and Maritza, Jose's mother, wanted that, and it got destroyed. I can't explain that, actually.
You sound, when you say that, you hiss it at Jeter, right, in a way that I don't know whether it makes...
They took down his locker. We had his locker saved, and they just got rid of that immediately. Well, I think they just were so scared of the cocaine and so scared of the bad press that they just tried to distance themselves.
But you understand that as a business, as a cold, nothing personal business, right? I understand that you get hurt by that. Of course you would. You cared about these things. These are emotional roots, part of the story of Marlins baseball. And the arm before this one was, could still be dominating baseball right now, because the last time the Marlins was this excited about a pitcher, he died on our rocks right out here, a couple of blocks from where we broadcast this show. It's one of the most painful things that you've ever felt, David. You feel emotionally connected to this, and Jeter did scrub it out, but they were trying to scrub you out.
Yeah, but that's going too far, right? Because if you're going to be brutal about it, you could monetize it, right? Having a story like Jose's is something that can be part of your franchise lore. You could still be selling jerseys. I haven't been to a team. Have you guys been to the team store? I have not been back to Marlins Parks for 5 years. Do they sell Fernandez jerseys?
No.
It's amazing. Just think about that. Do you think that, whatever. It's past. Let's go to number 2. I can't even talk about it because it's so ridiculous to me to turn your back on history that way, in a way that is not helpful to fans.
Mark Hendrickson started in 2008, and then Game 2 was Rick Vandenherk. Then Game 3 was Andrew Miller, the Holland Hammer.
Wait, who is third?
The third was Andrew Miller, and then Scott Olsen. That has to be a Josh Johnson injury season, right?
What are you laughing about, Samson? He is crying. He's not crying about Jose Fernandez. He's crying about that Mark Hendrickson team.
I'm crying about Rick Vandenherk.
The Holland
story
Hammer.
Of Rick Vandenherk. This is a great one. Rick Vandenherk was from Amsterdam. And the reason why Rick Vandenherk was a baseball player is we had scouts who wanted to get baked in Amsterdam. And so you had to go to Amsterdam, right? Oh, we got to go see him, right? It's going to be great. And he was supposed to be this big guy, and he was going to come in and be this
You sold us on this foreigner, this spinster. Exactly. This guy's coming from a foreign land. And
how much of the scouting budget went into sending people to Amsterdam?
Yeah, are you kidding me?
We did our winter meetings in Amsterdam because of Rick Vandenherk.
You're telling me that this was just a picture that you guys created, you concocted because you needed somebody who was super Caucasian to be foreign over here?
No, because people wanted to get stoned, and they wanted to go to Amsterdam. The way the rules are now, if pot were legal then the way it is now, Rick Vandenherk would not have been a big league baseball player.
Because he enjoyed marijuana?
No, because they used that as an excuse to go over there.
I see.
Oh, my God. I guess I was not clear.
No, I'm an idiot.
I can't believe how sloppy this has gotten, because we're going to have to, David, go back and get to your top 5 embarrassments and your top 5 4-cent heads, because I don't think we've done those top 5 categories before.
Can we keep going with the first list?
Yes.
Okay. Number 2 is the guy you just mentioned, who will always be in my mind, and it's Scott Olsen.
Who will always be in my mind.
The reason he's a Willie Nelson for me is he's another example of someone. He's on every list I have. He's on the 4-cent head list. That is for sure.
Okay.
He's on the biggest sweater list.
Yes.
And it must have been drugs.
He's on tasered in the front lawn list.
Yes,
he's
that
on
seems
that.
reckless.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's on the DUI list.
Yes.
He's on the phone call in the middle of the night. He's been arrested list. And he's on the, my God, he's never going to live up to his potential list.
A true legend. We've got to get Scott Olsen on the show, Billy.
I don't know that
I
that
believe
was
he's
the
a
way
high
to
school
pitch it.
coach now, Billy.
Really?
I believe so. I think he works with kids, which is scary. But again, he's old now. My guess is he's, I don't know, what is he, in his 40s?
But David, I meant to ask this because you mentioned I forget who is in a church band now. What is the most random "Where are they now" from your former Marlins players?
I have it. Brian Banks is a family dentist.
Really?
It's great. That would be
It's
so
like Mad Libs
it
with
would
occupation.
Be so great though. Imagine if you just showed up at your dentist and the guy that comes out is a middle infielder from your past.
With a World Series ring, might I add. Hey, is that plaque?
He really dentistry is what he chose afterward. Interesting.
Listen, the majority, this is what's crazy about professional sports that's not talked about enough because we're too busy talking about Kyrie and all the people who have money. 98% of professional athletes need to work. Their careers are done when they're kids and they have no money. So they do jobs. Anthony Telford's a real estate agent. There's a Chris Resop is a real estate agent.
Billy, I haven't seen you smile this much in months. You are
Well,
so
Brian
happy.
Banks had a great set of chompers, so it makes sense. Good-looking guy, too.
Put it on the poll. Did Brian Banks have a great set of chompers? And finally, David.
I got to give you my number one, and it's also on my top 5 most embarrassing list. The number 1 fifth starter in Marlins history is Wei-In Chen.
$85
He
million.
was not a 5-by-your
$85
game.
million for no reason. They were bidding against themselves. It was so
He
strange.
was sold to us as a 2. We believed him to be a 2, and he ended up being a 9. So we settle with the average of him being a 5. That's how you make the list. He's the biggest robber in Marlins history. There's another list.
Heath Bell would like a word.
Jeffrey's
No,
the
we
biggest
got-
robber in
wait a
Marlins history.
You're
Wait.
the biggest robber.
Me?
your list of what do you mean? Yes. Our top 5
Who
list.
said that?
Our top 5 list of greatest robbers would absolutely put you at the top of the list.
Hold on. Oh, you're talking about the financing of the ballpark? That's the robbery?
Yeah, the billions
Who
of
said
dollars,
that?
the billions of dollars in taxpayer dollars that we owe for
It's
the
not
construction.
billions, Billy. Get your facts straight.
I'm just drinking water here.
Are you pejoratively referring to me as Billy Corbin, essentially?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Very pejoratively.
Jesus.
Don't drop numbers when you don't know them. It drives me insane.
Well,
Whoa.
all right, what are we getting wrong there, though, as you not being one of the great robbers in Marlins history?
You'd put yourself at least at 3, right?
No, because these are on field.
But you stole more.
Oh, for sure. But it wasn't stealing. Do robbers
Pierre,
have to
biggest
steal?
robber. Stolen
Right,
bases.
right.
Yeah.
He stole bases. No, and Heath Bell, I believe Heath Bell's contract was only like $27 million.
But compared to performance, when your job is to get 3 outs, once every 2 or 3 days, and he couldn't manage that. Like, in terms of what you're expecting, like the level you were paying him at as a closer was probably in the top 5 at the time. You're paying him to be a top 5 closer in baseball.
He was a top 5 closer when we got him. He had been, and then he wasn't. So I don't know. I mean, there's so many people who robbed so many contracts, but Chen, I just did it notionally, right? Even D. Gordon took money, but I don't believe that deal was more than $85 million. I think Wei-In Chen was the most. That's why I said it.
Whittingham, you're saying out loud, I don't want to just skip past this because we don't talk about sports very much like this. Chris Whittingham grew up, if not an agnostic or atheist, no, I love sports. I love the wonder of sports, but I'm not going to get caught up in it spiritually. Chris Whittingham just articulated finding religion at a baseball game.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I haven't gone on and become like an immensely religious person, but it's one of those moments where you go, it can't just be a coincidence that this happened.
That's not finding religion, though.
Okay, finding some sort of our lives are not completely in our control. that there are things beyond us that happen in our lives.
A miracle.
Cologne was told to put it over the plate at 80 miles an hour.
No.
So just
Oh, he
FYI.
didn't do that.
Whoa,
Come
wait a
on,
minute,
don't
no.
be so
What?
cynical.
Wait a
Come
minute.
on.
David.
You're right. That was not, it was totally natural and normal. You're right.
Don't ruin that moment for me. Don't ruin that.
Alleging,
Come on.
You're
Christ.
alleging that Whittingham's religion, you're alleging that pitch was grooved? You're making that accusation seriously?
It's not an accusation. That pitch was grooved.
What?
Excellent arrangement. Oh my God.
What? One of
I
the
think I'm
most...
gonna go
does
home
that
for the day.
Hold on. Chris, that ruins the moment. We could groove a pitch to you and I, and we wouldn't be able to hit it for a home run. D still had to hit it for a home run, but it was grooved.
I have a question for you, not about grooving pitches. Back to Jamie Moyer for a second. The Marlins could never hit Jamie Moyer, someone that threw like 84 to 90 miles an hour. Why couldn't you just put up like a pitching machine and batting practice and be like, let's dial that back to 75 today? You know what I mean? And then just
I
have them
love
practice
this.
pitching slow, like hitting slow pitches.
So people look back at Jamie Moyer as a Marlins killer, and what they don't realize is he was a Marlins killer over several iterations of the Marlins franchise. It wasn't just the same group of players each year. It was because we always had those change of rosters, right, when we break it down and build it back up. He went through a period of time where us facing Jamie Moyer, and I believe he was on the Phillies when he was the Marlins killer. We would go in there, and we were losing that game. We just knew that we could not hit him. And so we would talk to our hitting coach. What do we do about approach? Is there anything we can do that's different? We talked to the players when we were going in for the pre-series meeting, going through who's pitching each day, going through what he has, what his stuff is, what his tendencies are. And our hitters were defeated before the first pitch was ever thrown. Those games were over before they started. And no one has been able to explain to me why it's different generations. It's the same thing with the Cubs curse or the Red Sox curse or the Mariners not making the playoffs for all these years. It's totally different teams. Why does one have anything to do with the other? But for whatever reason, it does.
Top 5 embarrassments?
Losing to Jamie Moyer? No.
No, top 5 embarrassments. Can you do it now?
Do you need me to?
Yes.
Yeah. The top 5 embarrassment, the number 1 was...
No.
Oh, do I have to start at number 5?
Yes, of course.
That's how all these lists work, Dave. You've done a lot of these now.
Come on, David.
At the end of this, I'm going to ask you for a review in case you're unfamiliar with the format.
The number 5 embarrassment off the top of my head was the rain delay with the roof. That was mortifying to me. The number
What
4,
happened there? Was it just like a weather app failure? Did someone forget to
It
check
was
the
me.
app? Really?
It was me, and it was me. I got a call from a guy named Claude who said, there could be a pop-up storm here. And I said, and I looked at my weather app. This is a true story, and it did not show that there was going to be weather over Marlins Park. And so I said, no, it's opening day. We're going to leave it. And he said, we're not prepared. The tarp was really it's not even on the ball field. Like, we have to get the tarp. It's in the back of the ballpark, like in the plaza. Like, just know you're going to have a problem if it happens. And I said, it'll never happen. And then it did. And it was mortifying. And I got crushed for it. Number 4, running out of hot dogs. The first opening day of my career in Miami in 2002, which was not my fault. It was Huizinga's fault, but I got blamed, and I was mortified about it.
Passing the buck to Huizinga.
We didn't run concessions.
Well,
why would I get blamed?
Because you should call somebody like, hey, we need X number of hot dogs for the game.
Okay.
I don't know.
Can't you just go to like Walmart and pick up a bunch and run them back over?
It's literally across the street. That's funny. I'm imagining the visual of David Samson leaving Hard Rock Stadium, driving across the street to the Walmart. It wasn't there at the time? Oh, man. But I love that. Just like supermarket sweep, running down the aisles.
Going back to the gas station. Grabbing gas station hot dogs.
Number 3. Number 3 most embarrassing moment for me was announcing the death of Muhammad Ali.
This is one of the great stories of all time. This is number 3. This is number 3. And this can't, how is this not number 1?
Because he was
Because he
dead.
started Mark Hendrickson in opening day in 2008.
Listen, that goes to number 1 if Ali died like a month later. But he was dead, so it can't be number 1.
This Ali story is one of the great stories ever told.
People don't believe it. Like, absent Google, people would not believe that the Miami Marlins, through David Samson, announced the death of Muhammad Ali worldwide.
Unbelievable.
Tell the story. Go
To
tell
25 people
Tell the
also.
story
by the
in
way.
the stadium
that's
on the Jumbotron. On the Jumbotron.
I got a call saying that Muhammad Ali was dead from a friend of mine, and I assumed that the family had announced that he was dead. So I called the people who do the Jumbotron, and I said, let's do an ode to Muhammad Ali at the end of the game. They said, why? I said, he's dead. So we did a rest in peace with a picture of Muhammad Ali. And all of a sudden, PJ Loyello comes down to see me and says, David, he's not dead. We have to go to Louisville and kill him because the whole world thinks he's dead now. That really is what happened. And then the side note to that story is I had to pay out of my own pocket $9,000. Why? Because in a rush to get it on the Jumbotron, we used an image of Muhammad Ali without permission of Getty.
Wow.
It became worldwide news, and they sent us a bill for $9,000. I go and I try to expense it with our CFO. He denies it. I go to Jeffrey to say, I am not paying this $9,000. He said, you announced Ali's death. $9,000. I had to pay it.
Oh my God.
Jessica, why are you holding your face? Just the mess that David made?
Like,
Yeah.
but I have a question. Why did next of kin call you? But why? How did you get that call?
It was his agent, not next of kin.
But
I
why,
had to
but why,
call
why was
his
Muhammad
family,
Ali's
by the way.
agent calling you? Like, I feel like there's a lot of people. I'd probably call the Associated Press before I called you, David.
Do you
They were
guys
working on
do you
a
guys
statement.
understand, David? I can't believe I'm honestly having lived this story with you, and you're a storyteller. I'm stunned that you haven't told some of the best parts of this story. Whittingham, I was talking to David Samson as he was hiding somewhere in the bowels of the ballpark and in the middle of his shame at the center, okay, of, oh my God, I've killed Muhammad Ali. The nation is reaching out to David Samson on who's your source. You're the first reporting it. You put it on the Jumbotron. The Marlins announced Muhammad Ali, icon across all times, is dead. And now David Samson is afraid, hiding in the bowels of the arena.
Calling you. I'm talking to you.
Scared as his PR director is shouting that the only recourse we have is we must go to Louisville, and if he's not dead, kill him.
All of that is true. Like, I can't. It's exactly
That's
how it
number
happened,
3.
actually.
How could that be number 3?
Muhammad Ali and the Marlins have an interesting history because
Yeah.
that was like the saddest first pitch ever in 2012, the opening of the ballpark.
Yeah.
When Muhammad Ali was coming out and it was like intentionally slow driving and they were trying to get the crowd to chant Ali and it took like an hour and a half. And then Jeffrey like handed him a ball and he just handed it to someone else. It was like, I don't know. It kind of set like a sad tone. And then we had Emilio Estefan's Marlins song playing right after that. It was like, what the hell is going on right now?
What are they called? Palenco dancers?
Flamenco?
Flamenco?
Yeah. I don't
had
think it was
those-
flamenco dancers. I think that you guys had like
They escorted the players out of the dugout for
Yeah.
the introductions.
it was like carnival.
Were
with
they wearing?
feathers
But
and
they were
stuff.
wearing
Yeah.
feathers. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what that's called, but it's something. It's something that did not go well.
I think flamenco dancers. Is it not? Are we getting that wrong?
No, flamenco aren't flamencos the one that have like the castanets or whatever
like
they're called?
cha-cha. What's the love boat get? Charo. Is Charo a flamenco dancer?
I do not know these ethnicities here. Now we're just
Charo's
throwing.
a person.
I know, but we're just throwing all these Latin people together now, throwing feathers on them and saying, that dance that they do that was brought to us by Emilio Estefan, who's still out here doing it. Like Father of the Bride is the most streamed movie ever. I believe Hispanics are underserved. We haven't talked any business with you before you get out of here
Samba dancers.
for vacations. Is that what it was? Samba
Yeah,
dancers?
Samba dancers.
Charo's a samba dancer?
No, Charo is like a
Charo's just
general
Charo.
She's just a
entertainer, yeah.
Latin woman is all she is.
Does your
An
audience
icon,
know who
yeah.
Charo is?
I know
Like
her
Roy, do you know Charo?
Yeah,
Roy,
I
for
know.
sure.
Yeah,
I know her from VH1 reality shows in the mid 2000s.
The question is, would Jessica know who Charo is? Or Anthony? Anthony, do you know who Charo is?
Of course, Dan.
Okay, who's
without
Charo?
question.
Jessica
Coochie
just
coochie.
asked.
That's
yeah,
what she was
coochie
saying.
coochie. Yeah, that's what she used. Yeah, coochie coochie.
The Latin version of a woman stereotyped on television in the 70s of dancing with fruit on her head. Yes? Like, I've got this right. Yes?
I don't think she danced with fruit on her head. I think we're confusing people.
That's like Freda Kahlo. That's
No, she
not
was an artist.
Charo.
All right, let's just get on to 2 because we're just now naming. If we keep going, we're going to get to
Naming
Sofia
every Latin
Vergara.
woman
And it's
we've ever
exactly,
heard
yeah.
of.
Now we're
Right.
stereotyping.
Yeah.
Number 2,
Number
most
2.
embarrassing moment.
Was when I wore a cowboy hat purposely to get on TV to pretend that the team was moving in Texas.
San Antonio. Huh?
And boots, right? And boots.
Yep.
And
We opened the season one year in Houston. I don't remember what year. And I made sure that the cameras knew where I was. And I said to them, I need to be on camera. And I had a hat and boots on. So the subliminal message was this team was going to move to San Antonio,
as you flirted with San Antonio.
which was just, sorry, Nelson Wolf, we were never going to San Antonio. But I did like the free dinner.
David, in retrospect, like, what would have been it probably would be Vegas now, right? Like, if you were trying to actually
It was
use a
Vegas
city-
then.
But like back then, professional sports in Vegas didn't seem like it was a possibility in the way that it is opened up now because of gambling. But
Well, because someone did it. Someone started,
Right,
The
exactly.
the NHL started.
yeah, but that would have been like probably the only, because from like my vantage point, it's like, wait, really, we're gonna lose the Marlins to San Antonio? Like, I didn't really feel that as a looming threat, to be honest.
The politicians did.
Really?
Yeah.
They gave him the stadium, so.
Well,
Yeah.
That's what worked. And Manfred wants to go to 32, right?
They're going to go to 32. Once the Tampa Bay and Oakland stadium situations are taken care of, and it will be taken care of with those teams staying where they are, then MLB is going to expand. It'll be 16 American, 16 national, total realignment. There is talk of getting rid of the American League and the National League and putting like the Mets and Yankees in the same division. That's something that was discussed at the Strategic Planning Committee in baseball as much as 5 or 6 years ago, what that would be like for Dodgers and Angels to be in the same division, or Marlins and Rays. I don't mean to say those in the same sentence because it's not even close to the same, but a total radical realignment.
Man, that would be shocking. Is that what's happening in sports now? We're just baseball can't withstand everything that's happening with the conferences, and Manfred can instigate that kind of change in a sport that's resistant to change, to like really throw it on its head and say none of the history matters
I
anymore.
mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, like the American and national, like I'm sure there probably are a lot of young baseball fans that don't even know why there is an American League and a National League. It's just sort of part of the furniture.
Yeah, pitchers aren't batting anymore, so there goes that
Right.
history.
There's also interleague play, so like.
Well, an interleague, by the way, is going to disappear under expansion. That's one thing they talked about, is not having it. But now they've changed the schedule. We're starting next year. It was exciting that the Marlins are playing the Angels. But starting next year, every team will play every team every year.
So we're just basically moving to almost essentially like in soccer, like a single table, where it's just every team gets to play each other. Or like, are there going to be an Eastern and a Western conference, or is it just the top 8 and the top 6 or the top 16 teams make the playoffs?
Well, under the scenario where you have 2 leagues, then it would just be top 8. And there was talk of doing no divisions as well. But I think where this ends is you still have 6 divisions, although there was talk of having 8 4-team divisions, and you do 4 on each side. But now that they're having every team play each other, they're going to have to refigure that out. But the answer is there's definitely going to be 32 teams, because the league has taken on so much debt because of COVID, and that the only way they can get that debt down is with a balloon payment, the type that comes with expansion. That's why it was such bullcrap when it was announced that the Oakland A's would not have to pay a relocation fee. I don't know if you guys read that or covered that. It was made up by Rob in order to get the Oakland politicians to vote to rezone Howard Terminal in Oakland, which they did by a wide margin, because they wanted them to believe that the A's could move easily to Vegas, which is why they were buying land and doing the surveys and all the other BS they're doing, when it's all meant just to get a deal to stay in Oakland.
So starting next year, every team plays every team every year. So like not here, for example, right? But like the Marlins could play the A's next year and the year after and the year after, and you just alternate?
Yes, so they'll play the A's at home every other year.
So you just lose what? I guess some division games? Like you're not
Yes,
playing the
so
Nationals
it's no
as
longer
often?
it's no longer the schedule where you're playing your division 19. Each team in your division now is 19 times. And what owners said is they're getting tired. Fans are getting tired of seeing the same teams over and over again. And they're not willing to buy tickets to see the same teams over and over again. So as a way to help improve attendance and excitement and ratings, you want to play different teams. That was the theory.
I've always thought that baseball could most afford to emulate like the soccer model where you play every team twice, home and away, and even determine the championship that way. You never would because you're getting rid of playoffs, but like it is the sport where you can most create a regular season representative sample. It's the one where you do create a regular season representative sample, and then they just, throw a million teams now into the playoffs. But that is how the model works in most sports.
But yeah, isn't the NBA that way? You play every team in the other conference home and away, one game each, don't you?
But then you imbalance the schedule by playing every team in the East either 3 or 4 times.
Right.
But baseball you can't because you play 3 times each time. So like if you're playing 29 teams 6 times each, you're adding games. You have 174 games.
What's number 1?
The number one most embarrassing moment was when I cratered the 2012 season by giving a speech in front of the Beacon Council in Miami, where it was accused that I called everybody in Miami stupid. And it made a ton of news as we were trying to open a new ballpark. And there was excitement with signings. And we were trying to turn around the PR. And I became the face of the reason for failure and the face of privilege and the face of condescension, when in fact those in the room would acknowledge that that's not how it went down. But once things get reported, that gets reported. And that was the beginning of the end in 2012. It obviously wasn't solely responsible for what happened, but that moment where I became the story was very embarrassing.
2012 probably has its own list of 5 to 10 things, right?
It does.
Between Ozzy and
it's
you.
so
yeah.
good that Ozzy wouldn't even make the list. Ozzy.
The cancellation of the franchise.
The contraction of the Expos, right? There's so many.
I meant the Showtime television show.
Oh, by the way, that was not embarrassing at all. The reason it was canceled is funny, not embarrassing. That was a great show. People watched that.
What's your review for this week?
I want to talk about a movie that I don't think any of you have seen, and I texted it to Mike, but Mike's not here, so I don't even know because he didn't respond because I guess I'm not.
No, tell the audience, Mike Stugotz, we're a little splintered today. Mike Stugotz, I don't know whether one Cody or two, they're all bombing to Tahoe here to hobnob with celebrities and allegedly make content for the next couple of days or just steal the company's money while frolicking over Tahoe. We don't know which. I don't know which.
They're not at the Sun Valley Allen and Company conference. Did you send them to that?
No.
Why do you know that that's in Lake Tahoe?
No, it's in Sun Valley.
Oh.
Did you mean Sun Valley or Lake Tahoe?
No, they are going to Tahoe now.
For the American Century Championship golf tournament, the celebrity golf tournament that's there every year.
And
is that sponsored by Sheets and Giggles?
What, Billy? What are you shaking your head?
Everything is.
Everything is, yes. All right, let's do your review for the week. That's why Mike's not here. He'll be back next week.
So I will not be, but one of the things that is talked about with Father of the Bride, one of the reasons why it's being streamed so widely, and I reviewed it on a recent Nothing Personal, it's a very Miami movie. And there's something about when you see where you're from and you see things that are filmed on location, you get to say, I've been there, or I've seen that, or I've lived that, or I can relate to that. There's a movie out that is not well known. It's called Small Town, Wisconsin. And strangely, there are a lot of movies that have Milwaukee in it, like Bridesmaids Out of Nowhere, right, is in Milwaukee. I don't know why. Up in the Air has a whole scene in northern Wisconsin when they go to when they go to a wedding. But this is a whole movie about a family in northern Wisconsin where I went to camp. I went to college in Madison, Wisconsin. I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And it's about baseball, family, trauma, alcoholism, fathering, lack of fathering, divorce. Do I need to continue? Like, are the themes sounding familiar other than the alcoholism? Although it's whatever. And this movie is not getting any attention. It's filmed on location in Wisconsin. It's about a dad trying to make good with his son one last time before his ex-wife takes the son out of state. It's something my dad never did for me when my mom moved me out of state. Like one more trip, like one time to make a memory or to try to do something. And it's on location, and it's revolving around a Brewers game. And so it shows what it's like for a dad to bring his son to the Brewers game. But of course, spoiler alert, they don't actually get to the Brewers game. So if you can check it out, it's called Small Town, Wisconsin. Dennis Sullivan stars as the father. I'd never heard of anyone in the movie. I'd never heard of the movie. And it's one of the best movies I've seen this year.
Wow. High praise from David Samson. Thank you, David. Enjoy the time off running, limping through, another continent, trying to run marathons on a torn hamstring. You're totally sane. We'll get top 5 4-cent heads next time, okay, when you come back on vacation.
I think I'm on that list when I come back, if I come back.
Scott Olson is top 5, though. He's in all the lists.